Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us for part 2 with our interview with Eric Latham. In this episode, we talked to Eric about how the Guild is funded, who can become a member, what's the Tennessee Ale Trail. We also discussed some of the beers that Johnson City Brewing Company brews, and we learned something we've never heard of before, something called poking the beer. You'll have to keep listening to find out what that is. We hope you enjoy. Cheers. What are some other ways you guys can raise funds? Do you have events? Do you have just donations?
Yeah, there's a couple ways, and the members that we have, not all breweries are members of the Guild. We'd love to have all of them. We welcome everybody. It's all the way from little breweries like ours up to some of the bigger ones across the state. But breweries pay dues, as part of an association. So that's a little bit of our budget. We've just hired an executive director and a new one, and been having meetings with him. And I'll be up there next week, in fact, to have a face-to-face and a board meeting. But we're very excited about digging into that and trying to get a little more creative about how we can raise some funds to continue supporting what we do.
Who can join? Is it just brewers that can join the Guild?
No. In fact, we have not exactly. I think they're called associate members. But I was Malt Europe. In fact, emailed me this morning. It's a malting company. I think they're. He's based in Ohio, but maybe they're Wisconsin or so. But we have associate members, and they can be, any kind of companies that supplies materials and supplies for breweries, but also services, like we have, I think, like law firms or accounting firms and things like that. Pretty much any kind of company that may touch the craft beer industry somehow can be a member, and we appreciate it.
Yeah. If you were speaking to them right now, if all the breweries in Tennessee were listening and you're kind of speaking to them, what would be some of the benefits that they would get by joining the Guild if they're not a member already?
Yeah, well, Kent Taylor, I love Kent. He's a member of Blackstone and been around for a long time, become a good friend since we've been on the board together. And, he always, because a lot of breweries will say, what do we get out of, if we, pay a couple $100s to be part of the Guild, what do we get out of that? And he sometimes will look at it the other way and say, we should want to be a member of this thing and be part of this group and support it, especially because we're paying, we've got fees like, going to the legislature and, paying a lobbyist and trying to, it's not a whole lot, but those kind of fees help us to be able to continue to fight the fight, and also to have an executive director. That's important. That person handles the day-to-day and kind of rallies us all and gets us all together and organizes, so it pays that person's salary, which is really important. But there's all kinds of other things that you get out of it too, is that we have multiple meetings every year that we get together on. The connections and the networking are valuable in and of itself. I can't tell you how many times that with the connections I've made through the Guild, how it's not only opened a door for me or saved me money, because you met another person that's selling this or that and you didn't even know about them. And it's a lot of fun. We took a survey of all of our members this summer, and the number 1 and number 2 items as far as priorities for them were legislative matters. And when we get our shoulders behind some legislative matters, sometimes we're playing offense and sometimes we're playing defense. But when we get together on something like that, doesn't matter what brewery you are, big, small, you got an agenda, whatever it is, we all get on the same page, we work together, and that's a lot of fun to make a difference outside of our own little communities.
Mm-hmm. It's strength in numbers, right? If you get something changed for the better, it affects everyone within the state for the better.
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we love it. It's initially when we were just, I was involved with the local guild here, it was like, initially because it was Nashville breweries that started it. A lot of people had the perception, a lot of breweries did, that it was just kind of a Nashville guild. It wasn't a Tennessee guild. And so I think that's over the past several years has evolved too, and breweries across the state, and just knowing that, a little guy like me, I'm now part of the board and president of the board, and
yeah.
that's not supposed to happen, a little guy like me. But that just shows that any of us can be involved, and we're interested in all types of breweries to be involved with the guild.
Absolutely. When you get on your website, there's a page on there at the top. It's called Our Members, and you can go down there and it shows all the members, and you can click on each one of them, and it gives a little description and kind of tells where they are and contact information. But you can see there's everything from Murfreesboro to Memphis to Copper Hill, Johnson City. I mean, every part of the state is covered. So to your point, it is a total statewide initiative. It's total statewide. Yeah, well represented across the board. You can just go down this list and look at it.
Yeah, and I would say to other members that aren't members too is that back in school, I was always told when I become a member of an organization, they'd say, you're going to get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
So it's an equal thing. It's not just here's my dues and now what do I get? Is that you're going to get a lot out of it if you participate, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Like even if I were a part of it, I would think, man, I want to be a part of this. Look, there's only 100. I mean, 100's a big number, but it can be a small number too. Like, man, I might have a voice in this thing.
Absolutely, yeah. If you want, like I said, for me, I was a guy who was maybe causing some trouble with the guild here, and then I said, well, this is important. I want to join the cause, and together we can have more of an impact, like you said earlier. And I think we've got as challenging as the craft beer scene looks like in Tennessee and across the country right now, I think we've got an exciting future.
It's gotten better. Like I said, the last 10, 15 years, it's certainly gotten better here. We love our beer scene here. I know Knoxville's got a great one. I've actually been to your brewery, the downtown one. I didn't realize until about 5 days ago. I checked my own tab. I was like, holy shit, I have been here because I don't get to Johnson City much.
Well, I apologize. As I've told a lot of people, somebody would say, hey, man, you made a pretty good beer. And I said, trust me, I've made a lot of bad beer.
That's that learning curve, right?
Yeah, we do a lot of experimentation just to have fun because we don't want to be like the donut guy that every morning walks in and says, time to make the donuts.
Right.
And we got to do something creative from time to time. So sometimes we take it a little too far.
Hey, well, on that, you guys on your website on the Johnson City Brewing, you mentioned experimental and unique flavors that you do in your beers. Kind of tell us what some of that is and what some of your core beers are too at the same time.
Yeah, well, the truth be told is that we're 10 years in, and I just was talking with our production team yesterday, and this is maybe the first year that we've ever had flagships.
Yeah.
And the funny part about those is that they were kind of determined not by us, but by the customers. So we've got about 6 or 7 flagship beers, and believe it or not, our best-selling product, which is funny because I think we brewers and a lot of the industry and even consumers are coming back like full circle toward drinking like light lagers and pilsners and things like that. It's really funny how I'm right there. That's what I'm like, oh, Yingling lager, maybe that's a little too dark for me. I'm gonna bring you guys some beers when I get to Nashville next week. But Peaches was an accident the first time I made it, and we scaled up. Story goes, we scaled up we started on a 1-barrel system. So you guys know most homebrewers were 5 gallons, and I moved to 1 barrel, about 250 gallons. I was like, that's a lot of beer. And of course, that was only 50 gallons, about 250 pints. And I thought that was a lot of beer, but if you make something pretty good, it's gone really quickly. So Peaches,
Eric, can we talk about how you got into the brewery business to begin with?
Yeah, gosh, we do need a couple hours for that story, but I'm sure everybody says that to you, but the short of it is I was a home brewer. It was a hobby. As I mentioned earlier, I was trying to help economic development recruit Stone over here. And at the end of that, when we knew we weren't going to get it, we knew we weren't going to get it the whole time, but at the end of it, we said, what are we going to do? I said, Mitch, what are we going to do? We got to get a brewery in town to keep downtown coming along. And he said, well, you're a home brewer, aren't you? Or he said, you're a brewer, aren't you? And I said, well, home brewer. He said, why don't you start one? And so I came home. I was kind of laughing about it. I came home to my wife and I said to her, I said, she said, how'd it go? And I said, well, Mitch, we're not getting them, but Mitch said we should start a brewery. And so we kind of laughed that thing off. And the next morning, it was Saturday morning, we kind of rolled over in bed together. And she said, well, how much do you think we'd need? And I said, well, I don't know, like $50,000. Like, I think I was like $50,000.
Yeah.
Because that's still a lot of money to me.
Sure.
And she was like, oh wow, 50,000. And so we started knocking around with friends and family there. And by Sunday afternoon, we had 50,000 pledged. And It was kind of like,
get out of here.
It was like, expletive. I guess we're doing this thing.
Yeah.
Now
what's next, right? What's the next step after that?
I don't want you guys to have to edit it out.
Okay.
Oh, well, we've said a lot worse. So, at least I have. Steve.
So you have so many connections with brewery owners across the state of Tennessee. What kind of advice did you get in the beginning when you were trying to establish a brewery?
Well, I didn't there when I started. There weren't any breweries here. We knew some that we had knocked around, just traveling around, just like you guys were talking about, traveling and being consumers. And I can't help myself when I go in there, especially if it's a small brewery, and I say, "Oh, what are you guys brewing on back there? And who's the brewer? And what they're," especially if someone's knocking around. I'm that annoying guy. And
smell it too when you walk in. Right?
Yeah. If it's cooking, I'm like, all right, we're going in this one over here. Couldn't help myself, and so got a ton of advice from brewers. Probably not a lot in Tennessee here, more like around the country. The advice that I got mostly was don't do it. Yeah. And
you're like, I don't want to hear that. That's not what I'm looking for.
Well, for my kind of personality is when someone says don't do it, I'm like, watch me try.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys. That's it kind of raises the stakes.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, challenge accepted here. And so, but I will tell you this, that when we got going in that first year, even in the first weeks and months, I thought we were done for. We just hung in there a little bit. The $50,000 that we had raised to open it was literally gone. So whatever beer we had that opening day, October 25th, 2018, money coming back in, and then just having to put it back in to make more beer. And that's why we ended up doing a couple rounds of capital raise from our friends and family. But I've started a couple of other small businesses, and I don't know if it's like any others starting a brewery. Because you want it to work so badly. You get a creative outlet, and I think that's part of the boom that happened in America is that, look at times like, 2006, 2007, 2008 with the Great Recession or people losing their jobs. Hey, I can make beer, and I can use my brain. It's a creative outlet, and you want to fall in love with it for all of the things that it represents.
Yeah.
And so it would be that much more heartbreaking if it failed. And so that's why some of these breweries that you see failing is that people and families have put blood, sweat, and tears, not to mention a lot of money usually, and it's just not working.
If, say, 20 years ago, you would have been sitting around in a conversation and somebody would have said, hey, in 20 years, you're going to be opening up a craft brewery. What the heck would have gone through your mind then?
What the heck's a craft brewery?
What's a craft brewery? Yeah, I mean, someone that was joking the other day, it was like a beer swap around Christmas. We did like a 6-pack. Everybody brings a 6-pack of your friends, and then everybody takes one of those beers, and you get like a mix pack. I brought my 6-pack was a Killian's Irish Red.
Which I like that beer, but yes,
Yeah.
Did they look at you like you had two heads?
Yeah, because a lot of these people were folks that they were customers and became really good friends through our tap rooms. And that's the funny thing is that most of over the past 10 years, a lot of the important people in the community I've met through the tap rooms. I mean, that's what they do. They bring people together, and it's like Senator Lumberg, who unfortunately he lost his primary there. He just came to our tap room to visit, and it wasn't like he was drinking a lot. He just was like, oh, first craft brewery in Johnson City, come see this. And you meet people, you have conversations, and the next thing you know, you're working to change a law and try to help things.
A guy like that, when you're talking to him, does he even realize what kind of laws might affect you at that point?
No.
Right.
And
he probably opened his eyes to something as well.
Yeah, I think that's our job as citizens is to it sounds funny, but to enlighten our legislators. It's part of our job, and it sounds like, hey, they're supposed to be doing their jobs, but it's a little bit like the guild. It's like, if I join this guild, what am I going to get out of it? No, the guild is only as strong as we are as a group. And we have to contribute to it. It's not just a small financial contribution there. We need you to participate.
Yeah.
And so the same way with the legislators there is that when he walked in there, he said, what are you guys facing? And there was he's a smart guy, but there was a process of saying, hey, here are the challenges that we're facing. Did you know that we can't self-distribute beyond our own county? And I didn't know that. course, took 4 years, but imagine all the laws in Tennessee here that or issues that are affecting people and businesses and things that legislators don't know about. And I think that's partly our job to enlighten them.
Yeah, no doubt.
So your brewery has been around now for 10 years. And I'm sure there's been challenges, but when you look back, I mean, how rewarding has this been for you? I mean, you have to be so happy about it.
Oh my goodness. It's been rewarding in so many ways to be a part of this community. We're so grateful to our community. We kind of look at the state now as the craft beer community now that we've gotten involved more and more at the various levels there. But the connections there have probably been the most rewarding thing, the networking. And to go a little more introspectively, I think we're finally, I said we finally have flagships after 10 years in business. We're finally, 2024 was actually our best year in business ever in the 10 years. And it all has to do with people, not just the community here, but our staff. There's 12 of us now. One person, she's been with us. She's our operation manager at production, Anna McKay. She's a lead brewer for us now, and she's been with us for coming up on 6 years. So in the beginning, when it was really hard and stressful, it just sometimes it felt like I wasn't doing the right thing very, very often.
Yeah.
And that's with running the business and trying to take care of people, because you want to take care of people and you want it to work and you want to pay them as much as you can and give them benefits and give them all the opportunities that they deserve. It just wasn't there for several of the beginning years. For me, it's been a huge, huge, huge learning experience.
Well, it's got to be a testament to you, the beer you make, your community. You've been around 10 years. You've got 2 locations in Johnson City, which is cool. I mean, it's got to be a testament to what you're doing, that you're around this long and you're doing good things.
Well, I think my wife has a lot to do with it. She's a really good human being. She actually we're celebrating her today. She just today started her new job. She was working for the county here for the disaster relief. I don't know if you guys knew, we got hit really hard by Helene,
Yes.
Hurricane
Yeah.
Helene. And so she worked for disaster management and recovery for the county, and then just today started her brand new job for United Way to be the regional director for long-term recovery for the hurricanes in the region. And she is a smart lady. She is the one that she could have met 1,000 people in the first year we had this business, and I met all the other people after, and she's still the reason why we have a business.
Well, congrats to you for marrying her, and congrats for her on her new job.
I'm married up for sure there.
It's funny. I was on your website and also on Instagram, your social media pages, and I really love. Can you talk about some of the beers that you do? It looks like a fun variety. Like you have one called the Blue and Gold, another one called Peaches and Amber Ale. The Blue and Gold is a golden ale. Can you just talk about some of those fun beers that you love to brew and how long you've been doing them?
Yeah, well, and maybe this is like cheesy or cliche, but our motto for our brewery is a story behind every beer. So
Yeah.
even all the flagships, all the ones you name, the reason why I'm smiling is because they all have a story, sometimes wacky, sometimes, they're just stories that are behind them. And as a former journalist, someone who worked in news, that's kind of what makes things interesting to me, whether it's a person who made it or impacted it or an ingredient or we messed up some way. But Blue and Gold, the first time we ever made that's our second best selling product. Do you guys know the university that's here?
Yes.
Yeah. So ETSU is here, and they're the Bucks, and their colors are blue and gold. East Tennessee State University, big university. I think there's like 18 or 20,000 students. It's a pretty big.
They're in Elizabethton, right? Is that right?
It's right in Johnson City.
Johnson City. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. The main campus is right here. They may have like a satellite, that kind of thing, but a number of our employees over the years have gone and graduated from ETSU. And so every once in a while, as part of our company culture, we do a thing called team brewing. And because the bulk of our employees they work in the tap rooms, we want to bring them forward and educate them on how you brew a batch of beer, and also have some fun, taste some beers and eat some pizza and things like that, and do some team building stuff while we're brewing. And so anyway, the long ago, one of the team brews that we did, they said, let's do like a light beer, like a golden ale, and let's put blueberry puree in it for ETSU, Blue and Gold. And so it's a golden ale with blueberry puree, but very simple beer, straightforward, but we sell a ton of it. The other one, Peaches, that I was telling you about before, is a light amber ale made with coriander and peach puree. That one was an accident when we scaled up from a 1 barrel to a 7 barrel. Made the beer too hoppy, got better hop efficiency, and it was more like a pale ale than an amber. Delicious beer, but couldn't sell it the way I wanted to. So I added some peach puree to it, and the rest is history. We can't make enough of that stuff. In fact, I'm bringing some to Main Street Liquors.
Yeah. I'm there about 3 times a week.
Yeah. This coming week, I'm gonna bring them some cases of beer and get
Are you
that
seriously?
going over there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
We've not met or talked to Aaron yet, but we hear great things. I love that liquor store. You can buy singles in there. They got the best of the best. So I'm excited for you guys to be in there.
yeah, every time I'm there, I stop there. I do a couple of stops around the city, and I come to Nashville about once a month. I love that place.
Well, let's do it. If we can meet up with you, or when you get so you're going to put some beer in there to sell?
Yeah. I'm going to be there January 14th through 16th, bringing some beer, doing a board meeting with the new executive director. And then you guys will love this. On the 16th, I got to race on back to Johnson City because for about 3 years now, we've been doing a thing called poking the beer. You ever heard of that?
No.
Oh, we got to have you to Johnson City. We do one in the fall and one in the winter. But you never heard of this poking the beer?
No. I'll never forget it after this day. I can
That's
promise
right.
you that.
Yeah. So what kind of weird things y'all doing in Northeast Tennessee?
Please tell us.
Really, poking the beer it wasn't our idea. We borrowed it, and they do it in Minnesota and Wisconsin, but they've done it since medieval times. And supposedly through history, if you guys type it in, something like the Visigoths and the Germanic tribes when they were about to go into war, all these guys sitting around drinking a bunch of beer. They've got swords and pikes and everything in the fire, and they're drinking beer, and they're like, hey, I wonder what would happen if we put this sword down in the beer. It's all 600 degrees coming out of the fire. It does. It's really cool. Once you put it in, you poke the beer. This is the residual sugars. Gives it a nice foam cap that's almost like a marshmallow on the top. And it doesn't make the beer too warm. It makes the cap just a little warm, and then the beer's still cold. But it tastes like a kind of a marshmallowy campfire. And we're on the 16th. We do that. We build this bonfire, and we have a bunch of pokers, and people line up. And look it up online. You'll see in Minnesota, these guys have like people waiting for like a mile trying to poke the beer.
Get out of here. Really?
But the best part is me and my wife Kat are battling back and forth about making a T-shirt. I got poked at Johnson City Brewing. Do you think that's over the line?
No.
Marketing. Why not?
No, that's completely appropriate.
I think we would sell like 1,000 of those things. It'd be like the Big Johnson T-shirts.
As they're walking in, that's where your table is. They're walking out even after they've been drinking for 4 hours or whatever. And what you do is you have whether it's you or just have a couple people walking around with the shirt on too. Like, where'd you get that shirt?
Yes.
Just right over there. They're $30.
Wow.
Get you one.
I like the way you think. You must have some schooling in marketing.
I don't know. We're trying to sell our shirts. I'm just looking for any way to get them out there. I keep wearing them. Nobody's buying them.
Oh, man. One of these days.
Where do people get it? Do they order it on your website?
We've actually got an Etsy store. We got a couple shirts. We've given to friends, and we've got them, and it just says Brewery Underground. We've got a couple versions put out there on social media and stuff. But
how do you find the Etsy store? What do you search?
We're brew merch. I think we're Brew Underground merch is what we are on Etsy.
Okay.
Or just Brewery Underground Podcast. You'll probably find us that way too. It's just some logo stuff,
we may have to do a T-shirt exchange here.
Yeah.
You mean I give you a poked Johnson City Brewing one?
I'd wear it.
I'd wear the hell out of that thing.
I'm curious. Of all the beers that you brew or you guys brew, do you have a couple of favorites that are your go-to there?
Oh man, as I mentioned earlier, so I mentioned those fruited beers, and we do a West Coast IPA called Apollo 13 because it was a near disaster. That's why we call it Apollo 13.
Wow. But
my favorite beer that we're doing right now is called Wild Frontier, and it's just a pre-pro lager. Real simple beer flavored beer, and we're just redoing our label for it right now. But I'd like to bring you guys some of that too. It's come out pretty clean. I like the yeast we use in it. It's one of those beers that you could drink it with any meal. I love a beer that's pretty versatile like that. No matter what you're eating, you could have a big old pint of that or 2 or 6. And then and it's one that you've probably heard this before, but brewing lighter beers, whether it's an ale or lager, can be some of the most difficult styles to brew.
Yep.
Yeah.
The simpler, the harder sometimes. Yeah.
Simple, the harder. Yeah, because you can't hide nothing in there. So I think we finally dialed in a nice crisp lager, about 4.5%. It's just beer flavored beer, and anything you're doing, any meal you're having, hot, cold, if it's hot outside, cold outside, sitting on the lake at the pool, it's one of those kind of things. And it's one that makes me happy too, because I like drinking beer with people.
Yeah.
I might be weird, but I like drinking beer with people.
You're not weird.
And this is one that if you break out a 6-pack and 6 friends, they'll all crack that sucker and be like, yeah, we can get into that.
Yeah, and you want to be able to drink like more than one at the same time,
Yes.
right? If you're hanging a nice crowd, hey, I want to spend several hours with you people.
That's it. There's a friend of mine, he's a firefighter up in Connecticut. He just brought me, I think it's Fox Farms, maybe several of their bottles of beer. And he does it every once in a while. And they just make incredible beers. And he brings me these beers, but they're like the one that you're having that's like 15, 20%, whatever, and I'm like, I'm about to get into my work and write a business plan. I'm like, am I going to open this thing? And is anything, when I read it tomorrow, is anything going to make sense? So,
I know.
Right.
You don't send it off right away, write it, and then revisit it the next morning. And be like,
There's a time and place for that. But like you said, is that if I want to drink 2 or 3 beers, that's the style I'm going after.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something, and I swear, with every podcast or every research or something we do with everyone, every guest, I learn something new or find something new. And I found something new within the last 3 days, and it's called the Tennessee Ale Trail.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's a spinoff of the Farm to Tap, or it's created from them. And it's a passport that you can get within the state of Tennessee, and you go visit breweries and you check them in. You get rewards and you get points and you can get discounts and things. I did not know this existed 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And kind of looking on your website and finding this thing, and it's a little passport, and it's not an app, but you download it, but you can send it to your home screen, and it operates just like an app.
The Ale Trail is one that it was created, but then with anything, if you make a product, if you make let's say you make a nice new vehicle or something like that, but if you don't have any marketing or advertising or promotion behind it, nobody knows about it. And so it was a nice thing, a product that was created. And then part of what we want to do this coming year is to start promoting it some more. That is actually, you're correct, that's part of a Farm to Tap project. So
it's really cool. Like I'm looking at, you can scroll, like I'm scrolling through, and I've not been to a brewery since I've downloaded it, but I can see like, I go to Black Abbey, I go to Southern Grist, and it'll put the discount right there on the front if we get something, and you can again get some points for going, and it's just if you're going anyway, like why not get this thing?
Yeah, well, it's a nice way to connect us all together too. Is that, oh my goodness, you open it up and say, I didn't know there was a brewery, this brewery in Jackson, Tennessee, or in Johnson City, that kind of thing. So it's one more nice tool that we can do better at getting the word out. But it's a nice thing.
It is again. It's back like we talked about earlier. It covers the whole state from east to west. There's not every brewery, but there's breweries from pretty much every part of the state on this thing.
I know. So there's sometimes I wish my job was just visiting breweries.
I know. We keep talking about if there's a way we can make a living at this thing, like this, and like go, hey, I'll go taste your beer and rate it or whatever.
A tough life.
Nobody's really willing to do that.
Well, you just got to, get a scratcher and get independently wealthy or something like that.
Because if I were independently, I would just continue to drink the beer at the different places and post about them. It would just do it.
I'd watch that, man. I'd listen to that.
Hey, you guys do events during the year. Like you mentioned them early on about you guys get together and drink some beer and do some things. What are some of those events you guys have scheduled for 2025?
You mean within the board or across the entire guild? Yeah,
kind of within the guild or within the board. Just kind of there are some events that you guys do, and I've seen pictures and like, hey, we're having a good time, or whether it's a beer fest or maybe something you guys create. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, so there's a day on the hill. We get together, and then of course after all of our meetings, we like to go socialize after somewhere.
That's good.
And so that's a lot of fun. annual meeting that we just had at Tenfold. You know those guys,
We
Tenfold?
do.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, we had our annual meeting over there, and the annual meeting is a blast. And besides the fact that I had to get up and give a talk, that's not as fun. But it's that one time a year where everybody's invited together, all the members and even their teams. I brought 4 or 5 of our employees. We get together, we go over a number of issues, legislative things that are coming up, roundtables, any technical kind of brewing stuff, equipment, making connection and networking, and of course eating and drinking and all that stuff too is a lot of fun. And then this year the board, we're going to be quarterly. We're going to be holding our meetings in 4 different places across the state. So it'll be Memphis, I think Chattanooga, maybe Nashville, and then Knoxville or so. We're moving those last one. The first one's in March is in Memphis, but we'll actually go to Memphis. We'll have our board meeting there, and then have a social inviting all the breweries that are local to that area to meet up and talk to the board and, any issues that come up and that kind of thing. But a lot of times it's just, it's the best industry to work in because it's like, let's have a chat about something. Okay, let's grab a pint.
You have to have
exactly.
Yeah, you're having a beer, so it's
business meeting.
Yeah, and it's the most fun kind of business meetings. So many times when people put face in face, you guys can probably imagine this. There are some breweries who have either preconceptions or think they know things about other breweries and that kind of thing, and there's a little bit of that, not a whole lot, that kind of thing. But whenever people get together, it's a little bit like politics in my view. If you actually get face to face with people, it's part of the reason why I like the brewing industry and beer in general, is that we've been doing this for a couple of millennia, back to the Egyptians and the Sumerians. You get together, you have a pint and say, hey, you're a pretty good guy, and after 2 beers, you're a good guy. I could be your friend.
You tell each other you love them at the end of the night.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll be doing those. And then the fun thing next week at the board meeting there, when we introduce Matt as our executive director, part of that is developing the things we're going to do for the year. Some of those things will be fundraisers like collaborations. I'm hoping we're going to do some statewide collaborations and, other things, that might be like meeting in places to go to a hop yard or yeast or malt or something like that.
Yeah, just something cool and just in different perspectives.
Yeah, totally.
That's cool. I need to work in the beer industry. I just got to figure out a way for them to pay me.
Yeah, that's it. You guys do work in the beer industry. You're getting the word out.
We do. And we really
try.
enjoy this. We we talk to brewers and we've talked to friends and we do all sorts of, we're trying to find different angles where it all kind of connects. And this is one of them. And this is a huge one. It's just a huge one, by the way.
Yeah. Well, let me put on my interviewer hat for a second. How did you guys get into doing this?
We drink beer, and we've been drinking beer for a long time. We've known each other for 10 years.
Yeah.
And we take this, we go to breweries together. We take an annual trip to Cincinnati.
I'm
and
a
every
big
time,
Reds fan.
yeah.
Okay, yes.
I live in Nashville. By the way, and not to interrupt, but I'm going to be over your way, and I'm going to try to get to your brewery in August because the Reds are playing the Braves, and I'm going to that game at Bristol Motor Speedway.
Yes. Yeah, I just saw that. We took the kids to the ice skating rink, and it had this countdown thing going on. I'm like, I hope they're counting down to some kind of event here.
Yeah.
End of the world in August. But
anyway,
I remember that.
That'd be a cool event.
Get it in, but continue there, Scott.
Yeah.
But every time we'd go to Cincinnati, we'd always hit we'd go for 4 or 5 days, and we'd hit all the breweries, and we'd come back. We're like, oh, we need to start a website to talk about this. And so it was like the website, and then we need to start a podcast, and we need to do this, and then we just. It's just grown into it, but we still literally drink beer every single day. That is the goal. That is not the goal. We do it anyway, but that's the basis. And then let's just talk about it. And then let's see if people will come on and talk to us. And it's just grown. We've only done it for a year, but
Could you do it like for a living? I mean, if it paid your bills, could you do it?
Oh, I would love it.
Yeah.
Yes. Between the podcast and going places and actually drinking the beer would be amazing. It'd be
that would be good.
Yeah, it'd be a good way to do it.
Well, I'm always interested in business models, and I wonder, do you just get advertisers? Is that basically, and then maybe some people that are subscribing and things?
Yeah, and we don't have enough people that actually subscribe, but yes, advertising would be good. I reached out to a couple people late last year to kind of get our toes wet in the whole advertising thing, and hey, we'll run a little commercial for you and we'll talk about it, but hasn't gone anywhere. Again, literally 1 year in, but we love it. It is a passion, but it's something we were doing anyway.
Yes.
And
If we were,
I think one of the most interesting things is that when we do interviews like this, is when there's so many of these brewery owners that we've met, whether it's Scott Murdy, and you mentioned we mentioned Carl Meyer and Kent Taylor. I mean, when we meet these guys, I mean, they're such fascinating people.
Yeah.
It's not just it's not just guys that are just drinking beer. I mean, they have a lot of knowledge. They're very passionate, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. I mean, it really is.
and
So
just like you, they're giving. Everyone's
yeah.
giving. We ask, and they're like, yes, and you're like, really? Okay, sure.
Yeah.
But no, but I think we're doing something. I think we're doing something for the service. We love it anyway. Let's get the word out on different things and talk to brewers and talk about them and then the guild and all these other aspects. And we're trying to get people on like a fermentation group from MTSU and
Mhm.
all these different things that connect.
But it's interesting. There's beer, and then there's all the other things that go along with it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
and it's all
I mean, we've
important.
tried to explore all those topics. I mean, even some of the stuff that we did late in 2024, where we're talking about our top favorite new breweries that we went to, and our top 10 beers that we like. I mean, I think that stuff is fun,
Yeah.
and I think it's kind of engaging because there's other people that are going, oh well, and we get every once in a while people in the beer community that may reach out to us, like we reach out to them, and they'll say, hey, we're coming to Nashville. And we've met people like that where, maybe they'll have recommendations on breweries that we could go to, and we've met up with them too. So it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's the beer community, as you said. As you said a few minutes ago, when you go and you're hanging out at some of these meetings, and next thing you know, you're off drinking a few beers with the guys and just having a whole lot of fun and,
Yeah.
bonding and things like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, and all this is why I appreciate what you guys are doing is because I read an article the other day that said, well, people are drinking less craft beer and they're drinking less and less craft beer. But I think maybe one of the things how we bolster our industry and support it are doing things like you're doing here is talking about it, educating people about it's not just beer, but the people that are in the industry. You're putting faces with the industry, and people like people, I think.
Yeah.
And we're coming out of a little bit of a cave from a few years ago. I think that what you all do is critical and important to bringing people out and getting people to continue supporting not craft beer but craft breweries,
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
means so much more than beer.
It is, and it affects a lot of different aspects. Not only a passion for ours, but like again, we were going to do it anyway, so let's just talk about it and and get some great people on, and at the same time, maybe even selfishly, we're learning. Getting to talk to you, we've learned a whole bunch of stuff, and maybe somebody else out there learned too, or just see how the pieces fit.
Yeah, I love it.
And one last thing I've got is check out the Tennessee Brewers Guild website. You guys have so much information on there, and there's other pages with other links to other things. It's phenomenal. It gives a good story about what you do. Again, the members, it's got a nice little description of each thing. You can go down a rabbit hole on that website. There's a lot of good information on there, just to get more than we even talked about here.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I would second that, and also just say thank you to all the people from the Guild. Thank you to all the people across Tennessee who supports craft breweries. It's bigger than beer. So
yeah,
thank you.
So for people that want to find you in East Tennessee, where can they find you?
Well, go to Knoxville and then keep going. As a lot of people don't know, is that East Tennessee goes beyond Knoxville, and we love Knoxville and all the breweries there, but you just keep coming on 81, you pass Dollywood and Sevierville and Gatlinburg and keep going towards Bristol and Virginia. And then you get on 26, Interstate 26. And the best part about 26 is that when you go, let's see, it would be east on 26. You come into Johnson City pretty quickly, and you can stop in. We've got a lot of great breweries here. I think we've got 4 breweries in Johnson City proper and then several surrounding. But the best part, too, is that you can come visit us, and then you keep going on 26 for about an hour, and you're in Asheville. Come stay with us, spend all your money here in Johnson City, and then, go for a little visit in Asheville.
Yeah, go
Sounds
visit
like a
Fillmore
vacation
afterward.
Love it.
Sounds like I'm running for mayor here or something.
Might be your next gig after the next year. Right?
Yeah. From Tennessee Craft Brewers Guild to Mayor of Johnson City. Thank you guys so much.
Eric, thank you so much for being here. This was such a great time. We got through quite a bit of what we were going to talk about, so I think we made a pretty good dent. Steve, what do you think?
I think so. I think we're good. All right. Well, thank you, Eric. Definitely appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll see you down the road.
Yeah, sounds good, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
All right.
Cheers. Appreciate you so much, man.
Peace out. The Brewery Underground Podcast.